Welcome back to my workshop and welcome back to my garage. In this video, we're going to take a look at how we got the guitar to this state right here. It is finished. The only thing I have left to do is I have to wait for 4 screws to come in and go get 4 screws so I can attach my back plate, and that's all that's left on this guitar. We've got the pickups made, the nuts cut, the intonation set, the wiring's done, pickguard's done, strap locks are installed. This thing is ready to go. I want to say thank you very much for everybody that tuned in to my videos for the Great Guitar Build Off. This has been an absolute blast. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you've checked out some of the other builders. There's some great builds going on out there, stuff that will really impress you. So again, thank you very much for tuning into my channel and taking a look. I do have one more video that will be coming with this guitar, and that's going to be the playability and the tone test and all of that, and giving you all the specs and everything like that. But that I'm going to wait and get it in the house, play it for a little bit, get used to it. But again, if you like what you've seen, click like, click subscribe. I'm really trying to grow the channel. I've got a lot planned. I will be taking a break for a couple months as I'm out of the country on a trip, but when I get back, I'll be having more content. So let's get rolling to see how we got the guitar to this state right here. All right, so it's time to start winding. I usually start off a little slow, and then I just bring the speed up. As it gets near the end of the wind, I usually slow the speed down a little bit, that way it doesn't come to an abrupt stop. If you can see this here, let me bring this in closer for you. Okay, so you can see I've got the white leads connected together, and I've got the start of my slug coil to the hot lead going to my connector. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to solder these together, and then I'm going to do a check on the pickup to make sure it works before I heat shrink everything and tuck it away. Black to ground, red to hot, and I'm coming in at 7.96, and this is my neck pickup, which is pretty much right where I wanted it to be. It is time to wax pot these. This is literally like watching paint dry. So basically, I've got the wax pot, got it up to 150 degrees, and I'm just going to drop the pickups in. And I'm going to let them sit there for about 10 minutes. Alright, it's time to start thinking about getting the bridge installed. I've got my ground wire. I know about how long it needs to be. A little bit longer than what it needs to be. I've went ahead and cleared out the holes from the finish buildup, from where the finish was in it. So what I'm going to do now is just install my bridge posts. This first one I'm going to install is the stop tail piece. This is the part that's actually going to be grounded. So I've stuck the ground wire in the hole and looped it through. So when I push the bridge post in, it's going to crush down on the wire that's down inside here, causing me to have my ground. So now it's just a matter of tapping these in. Alright, as you can see, I got the tail piece on. That took some persuasion. I actually had to take it over to a press and press that bushing in. I'd cleaned the finish out, and it was right to the right size hole, but the knurlings on the post were pretty darn tight, so I ended up having to press that in. I'm using a Tone Pros locking bridge, or not locking bridge, but a Tone Pros bridge on this. They have the set keys, Allen keys on the pieces, to where, like with the normal stop tail piece, this would just fall off if the strings weren't there, but I'll actually tighten down those Allen wrenches and it'll hold there. Oh yeah, these are going to go in better. And then these are my bridge posts for my bridge post. There we go. Stop tail piece and bridge installed. Now what I'm going to do is just lay a straight edge across here and make sure that, I mean, it's a little late now, but it's going to give me an idea. I just want to make sure that my bridge is going to be able to be tall enough. And it is. That's laying right across the strings right there, and I have plenty of adjustment room. It's time to start installing all the electronics. So what I've got now for electronics of just a Switchcraft 3-way switch, 500K CTS pots, a Protones input jack. I'm using just clear or black speed knobs for the knobs, and I'm going to be using 0.47 capacitors. I'm going to pre-solder as much of this as I can outside of the guitar. So I'm going to go ahead and get the backs roughed up on these and we'll get rolling. And here we go. You can see I just scored up the back of the pot just a little bit. That way the solder is going to stick a lot easier to it. A great resource to use. I use it all the time. I go to the Seymour Duncan website and I download their wiring diagrams. Seymour Duncan has a great site. Bare Knuckle Pickups is a really good place as well. They list they show all their wiring diagrams online. So basically this is what I'm going to be using. 2 humbuckers, 2 volumes, 2 tones with the 3-way toggle. The humbuckers shown here are 4-way connectors, but you don't have to worry about the white and the red. It's capped off because we're only using it as a straight humbucker, not coil split. And the humbuckers I have are 2 lead connectors, so I'll just ground it to the pot, then run it to the hot on the pot and go from there. So yeah, this is what we're going to be wiring up. So I've got my input jack in, I've got my pots in. They're bolted down and ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to be able to video this doing the wiring. I just don't have an overhead video to set up and stay out of the way when I'm doing the wiring. Alright, I've got the switch all wired up. White is going to go to the bridge pickup. Yellow's going to go to ground, or yellow's going to go to the neck. Red goes to hot, and black goes to ground. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little heat shrink over these just to give a nice shielding on them. That way the switch is all nicely done up, and then I'll run these wires through and get them soldered up to the control cavity. Alright, there we have it. The control cavity is all soldered up. We've got again the white lead going to the bridge pickup, the yellow lead going to the neck pickup, the red going to the hot on the input jack, and the black going to ground. I've got 0.047 capacitors on both tone controls. So it's all wired up. So it's time to start working on the nut. What I've got is I've got the nut basically cut to a rough shape. So I've got the line drawn. It's pretty much cut to size on the ends. A little bit of shaping there to do, but then I'm going to use the belt sander to sand it down to that top line. Alright, so you can see I've got the nut in the slot, sized right as far as side to side goes. And it's good across the top. I got plenty of room to work with. Basically what I did is I drew a first line with I have a fret with the tangs cut off. And I just laid this on the fretboard and traced the line. That way I knew where my fret was. So let's see if we can get this in here or not. Don't know if that's coming out okay, but you can see the bottom line that I traced there. That was the one that I put in with the fret marker. And then I went about a 32nd of an inch, actually about a 16th of an inch above that, and drew a second line, and that's what I just filed to, or sanded to, is that second line. What that's going to give me time for, allow for, is now I know where my fret's going to be, so when I start to cut my nut slots, I don't want to go any deeper than that first line initially, and then I'll fine tune from there. There we go. Don't know if you can see that very well, but I've got a nice bevel cut into the back of it. That way as the springs break across, they'll come across the back of that bevel. So right now what we're getting ready to do is establish our spring spacing. I've got my nut installed, and then I've got 2 strings installed. And what I'm going to do is I'm coming in about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fretboard. I'm drawing a line to the inside and the outside of the string. So I've got those lines marked. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thinnest nut file. Right between those lines, I'm just going to start cutting a slot. Just an initial slot for the moment. That way I can pop the strings back in it, double check. That's where I want it. Because now if I needed to make any adjustments, now would be the time. And then I take my string spacing ruler and I'm just going to line it up to get to the right spots. And the way this works is you find the spacing with the right amount of space, so I've got 2 strings attached already, so I need to find where the lineup is for 4 additional strings. First what you do is you find the setting to where it goes over both your strings, and some of them are short, some of them are tall, so you want to make sure that if you're doing the short ones, you're doing short ones. If you're doing tall ones, you do tall ones. So on both. So what I found is right here, and then I've got the strings line up, the silhouettes of the strings, and then I've got the slots marked for the other 4 strings. So now what I'll do is, again, I'll just take my thinnest file and very gently cut an initial slot on each of those spots. Now that I've got those initial slots cut, I can come back in, lay my straight edge back down on it, and I can verify if my cuts are in the right spot. The D string was just a tiny bit off. That's why you use your sharpest file, because what I was able to do is I was able to go back in and lay the line just to the side of that. Now I know I've got all my slots cut to the proper spot. So just with my sharp file, I'm going to take and deepen those a little bit. Okay, so I've got my high E string and my low E string installed. And what that's allowed me to do, it's allowed me to line up my pickups and make sure that I can get those mounted in. So what I'm going to do is I've got them set where I want them. I've got them taped down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drill one corner here. I'm going to put in one of the screws. Then what I can do now is I can remove the tape from here. I can make sure that I'm still centered on my position. Straighten out the pickup any that I want to do, because now all it's going to do is rotate on the one screw. Still want to make sure that I'm parallel with my front ones. And I'm level and straight. So now I'm just going to drill corner in the opposite corner. That way it'll secure the pickup in place. And then I can do the last two holes. And now that I've got at least two corners, opposite corners done on each pickup, I can go ahead and drill my other two holes without worrying about the pickup moving. Right now I'm just working on cutting the final depths on the fret slots. I've cleaned the nut up a little bit, took it down to closer to where it needs to be. And right now I'm just dialing in where I want it to be. Basically what I'm doing is I'm getting it to where it's just barely, it takes just a little bit of pressure to get it down onto the first fret. And when you hold it at the third fret, it should just touch with just the slightest amount of pressure. Right now I have my neck completely straight with no relief. So we'll see how that goes. And then if I need to add some relief, I will. So I've got the nut finished. I've got the nut smoothed down to the tops of the strings. That way I don't have excessive amounts sticking above the strings, and I don't have a bunch sticking out of the strings. See if you can see this here. Let's see if I can get it lined up. What I did was, for adjusting the nut, I was holding it at the first fret, the third fret, and there's barely pressing down. And you can see that just the slightest amount of movement causes it to bottom out. And it's just a gentle pressure there to fret the strings. So I've got my nut cut correctly. I've got my action tentatively set, and now what I'm getting ready to do is do intonation. Okay, to set my intonation, I'm going to play the string open, make sure it's in tune, and then I'm going to play it at the 12th fret. If it's sharp, you move your saddle back. If it's flat, you move your saddle forward. This one was way sharp. You want to make sure when you do it too that you don't put, when you're fretting at the 12th fret to play that note there, you want to make sure that you don't press too hard, you know, because you can make it go sharp just by doing that. So I ran into some complications with the Coca-Cola pickguard. It was just too chippy. I ended up taking a chunk out of it when I was doing the bevel on the router. So what I'm going to do is, in the meantime, I've got some black perloid. Some black pearl. I think that'll go good with the chrome, and it'll also go good with the black pickup rings. So I'm going to use this right now, and then I may convert it over to wood later, but for right now, so I can complete the build and press on, I'm going to go ahead and use this black pearl. Alright, it's all cut around the edges. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the bevel bit, and I'm going to do this with my hand router rather than with the table router. I'll have a little bit better control. All right, I have ops checked it. Everything works. I've got the shielding tape put on the back of the pick guard. I've got the pick guard set where I want it to be, and I've got my switch secured. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and draw my holes for my pick guard and install it. So basically I'm just center punching it to make sure my drill starts center and doesn't walk on me. All right, that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a blast. I've really enjoyed building this guitar. I've got 3 or 4 more in the make ready to go, and I'll be shooting some videos with that and getting those posted as well as kind of a beginning to let you know what's happening. But again, if you like what I've been doing, click like, click subscribe, leave a comment below, let me know what you think. I'd really like to hear your feedback. Until next time, take care.